What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here on the Middletown Radio podcast with my special guest, Jose Prendes. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are indeed, and thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to finally sit down and chat with you.
Yeah, man, it's a long time coming. He is a writer, director, also a YouTube personality known as Master Chaos. And he's done such films as Headless Horseman, which, if you have perused my channel before, I did a review on that a while back. Excellent film, by the way. The Legend of La Llorona, Blood Brothers, Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark, Hansel and Gretel, The Haunting of Whaley House, Song of the Vampire, and The Monster Man. So you will have a nice little career and a catalog of films there. We'll dive into some of that. One of the things that I found very interesting as we were talking behind the scenes a little bit is perusing your catalog of films. Like, I've noticed that you've worked with a lot of icons in the horror industry, and it's really pretty impressive, the list. I'll probably kind of jump around at times to kind of ask you about certain actors or actresses that you've worked with and whatnot. Thank you. But as we go along, I guess the first thing is, like, I remember first meeting you, and it's kind of the way it's worked with me in terms of all the people I interview so far, at least most of them on my channel, is through Fat Samurai Guy, because he does the verses and all this stuff like that, and that's kind of where I met you, and Neko had met you there as well. How did you meet Samurai? Like, was that just by chance, or did you know him beforehand? Like, how did that come about?
Well, it's funny because I'd known Preston, his AKA, through like I never met him, but I knew him through my buddy Wet Movie, and I knew they had done some videos in the past or whatever. So there was a connection there with them. But he reached out to me and he says, "Hey, I like what you're doing on YouTube. Would you like to come on and do something with me?" And I was like, "Oh wow, that's great." Because that was the time. YouTube is one of the best ways to grow is to collaborate, and
Mhm.
he definitely had a bigger audience than I at the time, even honestly still. But and it was kind of a no-brainer for me to jump on and join him, and we became fast friends to the point that I put him in one of my movies. So yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah. Obviously outside of your writing and directing, like I said, you are a YouTube personality under the name Master Chaos, and I've seen you done like um, basically like Blu-ray live shows for the releases and stuff like that, which is very cool. I know you do a lot of work with Tony of the Dead and stuff like that. Um, how did that part come about? Like the YouTube presence? Like, did you plan this when you first kind of started doing films, or is it just kind of how it naturally progressed once social media became a big thing?
For me, it was something I always had in the back of my mind. I love YouTube. I probably watch YouTube more than anything. I usually have my favorite people I check in with every day to see what they're up to. And when the pandemic hit, I just kind of felt like, all right, now's the time. I guess I'll try my hand at YouTube. What's up, Media Glitch?
Sweet,
And it
sweet.
was just one of those things where it's like I just want to give it a try and see what happens, and I'll focus on movie reviews because I love talking about movies, but sort of from the perspective of a filmmaker, because most reviewers are just fans who and not to discredit anybody, but I'm just saying most reviewers are just movie fans, and their opinions. You don't normally get a lot of film critics that are actually active filmmakers and sort of make a living in the nuts and bolts. Like, so when I say why a movie didn't work, it isn't good. I'll just say it sucked. I'll say, well, the script was lacking this. There was no, blah 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 blah. And other people can do that too. But my perspective, at least that's what I've latched onto, is giving it the perspective, the filmmaker's take on why a movie is good or not, I guess.
Right. Well, obviously, I love the way you done your room there. It's incredible. I love that.
Thank you.
Is the horror genre like your favorite of everything that you either do or watch?
Absolutely. As a filmmaker, though, I think
Uh-oh.
any creative person should watch everything, every kind of genre. because you don't want to sort of limit yourself in terms of the input that you're putting in, the art that you're absorbing. Whether or not you'll get to make every kind of genre is different. For me, the avenue of horror has been the the biggest to explore. But I guess it is my favorite in terms of what I've embraced and what I like to kind of decorate my surroundings with. But I've got a hell of a western I want to make. I love spaghetti westerns.
Yes.
I
Yes.
The last box set I bought was was a collection of French film dramas. One of them is a musical, so I think it's good to just watch everything. Um,
Right.
in terms of what's the most fun to make, absolutely horror is the most fun to make. That and action movies are the most fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because you brought that up. Like when I think back to even some of the major stars we see today in mainstream film, like they always generally get their start in horror films. Why do you think that is?
They make more horror films than anything else. I think. I think it's just one of those things where horror is it's for the most part cheaper to make, and it's fairly marketable. Usually, a production company knows that they can make a certain amount on a horror movie for the most part, and they're always hiring and they're always making them, and you never know who's going to end up in it. You could hire somebody that down the line will win an Oscar. You know,
Right,
uh,
right.
you never know. You never know.
Yeah, because like I remember I went and probably about a year or two ago, I finally saw The Burning for the first time. And as I'm
Mm.
watching, I'm like, dude, I recognize so many faces here. It's like so ridiculous. And it's like I
Yep.
never heard the movie till more recently, but it's a fantastic movie. But like, yeah, it just kind of blows me away whenever I go back and watch something old like that. And then it's like, oh, I know that face. Like I know who that is. So it's pretty
Hmm.
incredible. Yeah. So as a writer and director, like, is this something that you had always wanted for yourself, or how did that come about that you wanted to actually write and direct films? Like, what was the start of that?
I knew early on that I wanted to make movies. I was 4, I guess, maybe at the time, and I pinpoint Superman 2 as the movie that really, even at that early age, I remember sitting in the theater and watching it. Thank you, Randy. Uh, I
Mhm.
remember sitting there in the theater
Yeah,
and watching
George.
the
Yeah.
audience react, and just being like enthralled by the fact that everybody was in on this thing, which at the time I didn't know was considered movie magic. Like that's a term that people use now. I didn't know what it was, but I was won over by that. And that movie magic spoke to me, and I wanted to be a part of it, no matter what. I had no idea how to do it, and when I was young, I thought, oh, I'll be an actor, and I can play all the, I could be John McClane, and all that stuff. I could be RoboCop. This is gonna be great. But then the older I got, the more I realized the real power is behind the scenes with writing and directing, because that's when you really get to shape the movie. Even
Hmm.
with the performances of the actors, they bring a lot obviously to the movie, but the director is the guiding, the captain, and it's they say it's good to be the king, and I knew if I wanted to make movies, the most fun would be to be the king. So I've always pointed myself in that direction since I was little.
Awesome. Yeah. So I noticed, like, you do some of the acting in your films and whatnot. Do you prefer to be in front of the camera or behind it?
Behind it, it's less stressful. It's still stressful, but it's less stressful. I don't act as much as I used to anymore. Now there's just too much to do on these productions to have to worry about. Oh shit, what are my lines? Because yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll leave it for somebody else.
Let that be someone else's problem. Yeah, I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about that.
Yep.
So what films would you say kind of inspired you to be where you are at now? Like what films are your most influential?
I think in terms of ones that really sort of lit the fire under me, there's one that comes to mind that not a lot of people would ever even remember, much less consider like, oh, that's a movie that would inspire somebody. It's a film called Transfers 2.
Mm.
from
Yeah.
Full Moon Entertainment, and I love this movie dearly. It's not great, but to me, it means the world. And I remember I met Tim Thomerson, the main actor in the film, at a convention, and I said, I just want you to know that Transfers 2 inspired me, to be a filmmaker. And he's like, "What? That movie?" He was very surprised. But then he went and gave me a free autograph, which I thought was incredibly sweet of him. Um, I still want to work with him. He's on my list. But yeah, so that movie had back in the day, nobody had behind the scenes. In the 80s and 90s, there was no featurettes, none of that, because
Yep.
that came
Yep.
when DVD came in. So you didn't really get to see behind the scenes stuff, except like Entertainment Tonight, which shows some behind the scenes footage. So you kind of get glimpses of like, that's the boom guy, cool, but you wouldn't really get to see all that stuff. Full Moon pioneered the behind the scenes documentary. They would always have a documentary at the end of their videos. You'd have to wait for, fast forward the credits and get to the video zone. And Transfers 2 had the funnest behind the scenes ever because it just looked like a fucking blast to make a movie. Everybody was having a good time. They were all joking and like playing pranks on each other. And it just looked like so much fun. And it's just kind of like, oh my God, this is absolutely exactly what I want to do. Oh my God, this cinches it 100%. This is going to be it. So Transfers 2, a huge inspiration. But then movies like It's a Wonderful Life, which, completely different film, but it's such a powerful movie. And it's almost like, when people mention movies that deserve to be made, that need to be made, It's a Wonderful Life was a movie that needed to be made. It needed to exist. At the
Yeah.
time, of course, it failed. It tanked. And it disappointed the studio. Frank Capra was really bummed. Jimmy Stewart was disappointed. Frank Capra, was really, kind of burnt out at it. He was like, why didn't this hit? Years, decades later, it's a masterpiece, as it always has been, but people rediscovered it. But
Yeah.
that's a movie that has so much power, and that's certainly, it continues to remind me that it doesn't really matter how the movie does now. You never know what's going to happen in the future. Kind of like George Bailey's life. You don't know who you affect or who you. Not that my movie's going to save anybody's life, but you never know if you inspire somebody to grow up and maybe they're the next Kubrick. You never know. Like, oh, I
Right.
watched this
Right.
movie and it changed my life. Who knows? I'd like that to be the case. But art is something you can't pin down. So it's very tricky. But I think those two movies will be the ones that really inspired me. And then anything John Carpenter ever made is just amazing. And it's like, oh man, Escape from New York.
Ah, love that film.
It's just,
Love that
I
film.
mean, I want to,
The Thing is such a masterpiece.
The Thing. Oh my God. So it's, I think if my style is anything, is like I'm trying to be a John Carpenter, but in a, in a lower budget sense, if anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta have your own flair and what you bring to your own aesthetic and all that, so it's okay, like, you don't wanna be, like, a total copycat, but yet you still
Right.
wanna take the good things that he was doing and kinda capitalize on your part of it, and that's really respectful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's inspired a ton of people, but it's nice to, I still, I love his, um, real masculine style of filmmaking, that it was just almost cut and dry, but still fantastical and exciting. There's nobody like that.
Yep. Neko, she's chiming in. "I love how much you love It's a Wonderful Life."
Yeah, thank you. It's an incredible movie. If you guys haven't seen it, please check it out. It's absolutely a masterpiece.
Yeah, Big Trouble. I can't believe they're trying to remake that. I get so disappointed
I
whenever
mean,
I see it. So I'm still trying to deal with the fact that they're remaking The Crow. It really hurts me just deep down.
I think eventually anything popular is just going to get regurgitated, and what's going to
Yeah,
happen? It's going to be forgotten. They'll get one movie and then bye. No one wants to talk
yeah.
like Child's Play, Freddy. No one wants to talk about those anymore. We're done with those.
Nope.
You shit the bed. And now
That's the thing. Like it's like I'm probably one of the few that thought that the 2013 Evil Dead was actually pretty good. I really, really enjoyed that as far as a reboot or remake. at least compared to the first one. Now, I love Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness more, but I really like 2013. I thought it did a nice job with the effects and everything else. I like the more
Yeah, no,
scary
that was a good
part of it
movie.
all. Yeah. So they do get it right every once blue moon, but most of the time they kind of miss the mark for me.
Yeah.
Now speaking of which, again, I was looking through your catalog of movies you've made, and I wasn't sure initially if I'd seen it until I looked at the cast. So basically, Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark, right? So I remember seeing this, and there's a reason why, and I'm really curious how this came about. We're going to start picking at some of the people you've worked with. So in
Hmm.
the film, former pop star Debbie Gibson appears in as a character in this. How in the world did that happen? Like, and it's not that she was bad. I thought she was actually really good in the film, but it was just so weird when I saw the name on the credits. I'm like, that's Debbie Gibson, dude. What the hell? Like, what is she doing in a movie here?
Well, Debbie, I don't know if Debbie was in that one. She was in.
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna look
thought
it
it
up
was
right
that
now.
one.
She's
Maybe I
in.
looked it up.
She's in. I don't remember. Crocosaurus. We didn't have Debbie Gibson in on ours.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
because yeah, hers was the one before that. Because this is part of the whole Mega Shark um continuum, which I was lucky enough to throw my hat in the ring, and I was asked to write one. But I yeah, in honestly, in terms of how did they get Debbie Gibson, they
Yeah.
offered her money and she said yes. I mean, that's the answer.
Actually, they do have her listed as Emma McNeil in that, so it's kind of weird. I don't know why. Maybe it's
Hmm.
just wrong on
Oh
IMDb. I don't
yeah,
know.
you know what? It's been a while. Honestly, I wasn't on set for this, so it's been a while, as you can tell.
Well, yeah,
I'm a
yeah. I
little
mean,
out
look,
of
we
touch with the
all
franchise.
forget things.
Yeah,
uh,
it's been a while, and I was on set for like an hour to be an extra, so I was not really involved in the making of it. I guess we wrote her character in, but she wasn't a big part because
yeah,
if she was,
yeah,
I guess if she's in it, she must have been a cameo. Oh yeah, she's in it.
yeah.
Oh wow,
I mean,
she's in the
I don't
final
remember her
poster too.
being in it totally, but yeah. But yeah, it was just it kind of interesting there with that. But obviously, you've worked with a
Yeah,
lot of great actors. I know Linnea Quigley, who I met at the Jamboree for Joe Bob's thing a couple of years ago. I met her. You've
nice.
worked with Tom Savini. That's amazing.
Yep, yep,
Richard Lynch, the late great Richard Lynch. Felisa Rose, of course, and Brink Stevens, who Neko and I just met at G Fest this year. Very cool chick.
nice.
Just so many people. We're gonna get into your more recent stuff like The Exorcist, because obviously I want to talk about that. But again, I'll be picking a little bit here because of some of these
Oh
other
sure.
actors are just so iconic with you that you've worked with. Um, so as a writer director, uh, what do you find is the biggest challenge when you're trying to make a film? Like, what is it that really is the hardest part about getting them off the ground?
Um, luckily, I mean, here's the thing. Uh, it- Everybody makes different movies a different way, and movies are made very differently in different studios, and you can get independent funding, you can pay for it yourself. I've had to pay for my own movies. The first few movies I made, I funded myself. Can't do that anymore, but that's a thing that I wanted to make a movie, so I literally put my money where my mouth was, and made that happen. Nowadays with the asylum, they've got money and they've got distribution, so all the hard part is kind of taken care of in a sense, because that is the hardest part of
Mhm.
making a movie: finding the money and then getting somebody to watch it and pay you to either watch it or put it out for you. The distribution is the hardest thing. That's why film festivals are so big. That's why there's so many film festivals. Also, FYI, film festivals don't always work, and you have to go to the right ones to find people who are actually buying movies, and not just a random film festival in the middle of nowhere. That, yeah, you could say it played there, but that's not going to get you distribution, and that's what you want ultimately. You want people to see it. So the
Yeah.
asylum, luckily now, I'm 100% in with them, and they've got the money, they've got the distribution model. All I got to do is write the script and direct the actors. So for my sense, the toughest part about that is time, schedule, and ultimately not having enough money. But then again, everybody has that problem. But on the two recent films I made, Headless Horseman and The Exorcist, we shot those in 6 days for less than $100,000, and that is incredibly difficult, especially if you're trying to, make a movie with different angles and get performance right. If you're dealing with special effects, I mean, there's a lot that goes into making a movie in general. But to have the added stress of, we got to be out of here in 2 hours and we've got 10 pages to shoot. We got to go. It's incredibly stressful. Uh, and honestly, I don't recommend it, but it's, if you want to make a movie, you're gonna do what you can to make a movie, and uh, you got to suck it up and do it. Just do the work.
Right. Yeah, I gotta put the time in. Is The Monster Man, was that your first movie you had done? It
Yeah,
was, okay.
right out of film school. It was basically a shot on video. It was gonna it started out as a serious action thriller, but then after the first day of shooting, I'm like, this looks fucking stupid. Let's make it a comedy, and then we can have fun with it, and then the audience will have more fun with it, because we'll laugh with them instead of everyone laughing at us. And luckily, that's going to get a release on Blu-ray in the next couple of months through
Oh,
Gold Ninja
wow.
Video. So I'm excited about people rediscovering that lost gem, very lost gem.
Yeah, because that, like I said, you had Linnea Quigley in that, Denise Duff, Tom Savini. I mean, you said you just did that kind of coming out of school, right? So, how did you get them involved with that? Like, that's like, I mean, if that were me, like getting those people to come in and act in my movie first time, I'd be like, that's the greatest thing ever. Like, how on earth did that happen?
We went to a convention, and you'll hear this from a lot of low budget filmmakers. A lot of people have done this. We went to a convention, and Tom Savini and Linnea Quigley were there. And I said, "Hey, I'm making a movie. Would you be in it? Here's $400. Here's the 2 pages, and I can put you throughout the movie and whatever." And they said yes, and we filmed it. Literally filmed it in my hotel room, not in a weird way, but you'll have to see the movie to see how how that pans out. But
Right.
so we had a built-in location, and we shot it in hopefully in a way it doesn't look like a hotel room, but whatever. It is what it is. You do what you have to do with a no budget
So
movie,
wait,
and
when you did this, did you pre-plan the idea that you might be able to wrangle in some actors from the con? Yeah.
oh yeah,
That's smart, man. That is very
yeah.
smart.
That was the
Yes.
plan. I go, well, I mean, because it was a convention that was like maybe like 4 hours away from when I lived in Miami, and so I had to get a hotel anyway because I'm not gonna drive back. So I'm gonna be exhausted. So let's get a hotel room, and then we'll see. We'll ask, hey, would you do this part? And it'd be cool. Put me, I'll put you in my movie. And they were like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I'm like, awesome. So yeah, I was able to get them, and then luckily, even after that, I stayed in touch with Linnea, and we became, very, very close friends. And when she lived in Florida, we would hang out at her house. And I remember watching her horror workout with her. I was like, I'd never seen it, and so she invited me and my wife over to watch her horror workout. That was a lot of fun.
Neko ask, where did you go to film school?
It doesn't exist anymore, but it was in Miami. It was called International Fine Arts College. I didn't want to go to college, and I don't recommend it for filmmakers. You don't need to because nobody really cares where you went to school. Out here, it's just like no one looks at the resume. It's just like, what movies have you done? What experience do you have? But my parents wanted some kind of college, so I appeased them with an associate's film program, and it was good. You got to learn the lingo. What is a C-47? When somebody says 10-1, what does that mean? Learning about the 180-degree line in a film, and so it was good to learn the lingo. But in terms of did it help me get work? No, but I think it's it was nice for just to have a basis of what everybody kind of knows in the industry. But I would recommend, if you're on the fence, if anybody's considering film school, make a movie. That's your film school. You will have learned so much more, and you probably spend
Right.
less making a movie than going to film school.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and a lot of people do that kind of now. It's like, they'll just grab some cameras, go out and make something, and then hopefully people take notice, and then, kind of go from there. You mentioned something about the distribution, and I had done an interview with Chris Alexander, who's worked with Full Moon before.
Mm.
Do you find that Full Moon's like kind of one of the easier companies to work with in terms of like releasing your stuff or just movies in general?
I haven't worked with Full Moon. I was I almost worked with Full Moon on something, but they uh, unfortunately, it seems like it's not going to happen. So unfortunately, so I
Uh,
don't know. Yeah, they did release something I wrote, but that was through Denise Duff. So I don't know how that kind of all
Yeah, I
worked
think
out.
I saw that one, actually. I think that's when I saw your name pop up as the writer. It's like,
Mm,
"Hey, I know that guy. I know that guy."
yeah.
That's awesome. Alright, well, tell our viewers, like, what your writing process is like when you're creating a film, or do you have to take baby steps with it? Like, do you have to pause for a while and then come back, or is it all at
Mm.
once that, like, you get this brainstorm of ideas?
This is a good question because I don't know how to answer it really, because and every time I get it, I'm like, how should I approach it this time? Because writing is hard. It's a very difficult thing, but I don't know how to really, but if you're sort of like, if you have that writer brain, it's very easy, to the point where, when I hear some screenwriters like, oh, I spent 3 months just thinking about it. In the low budget world, you don't have time for that. Look, we're shooting a movie in 2 months. We need a script in 2 weeks. So you got to write. There's no time to pussyfoot around. You got to go. And I kind of love that. I've written very fast. I trained myself to write really fast from the beginning. And that's something I came in offering that. Like, I can write a script in 3 days, a feature script over 100 pages in 3 days if you need it, and no one else could offer that. And so that's kind of a superpower that I brought to the table, that I helped me get work. So, for example, if I'm given, with the last few movies I've made, they were pitches, to me. They like, oh, we want to make a Headless Horseman movie. Oh, we want to do an Exorcist movie. Okay, I send in an outline of what I would do. They give notes on kind of how they would want to see it. Then we go back and forth figuring out, like, what's the movie that I think I could make that's going to be good, and what's the movie that they want, and then we meet in the middle. Not that they wouldn't make a good movie, but I'm just saying in general they have different ideas, and like, oh, I'd rather try this and that. And then they give me the go ahead. They go, you got 2 weeks to write, and then that's when I sit down and I like to do a outline of every scene, but very simple. It'll be like, scene one, Joe gets arrested. Scene two, he's sent to prison. Scene three, he gets to prison and he meets a friend. And so I break it down scene by scene, very briefly, just so I have enough to get me going,
Right.
and then I just start typing, and I like it when it kind of feels like channeling, where you can't really really get where it's coming from, but it's just flowing, and you just let it go, and you just write until the characters are speaking, and it's them talking, and then not necessarily you talking, or writing for them. And to me, that's the magic of writing, when the characters really take over, and they just go, man. And I love being able to discover those little moments. But writing process is different for everybody, and there's some people who need a year, and I mean that's fine. But where I'm at, it needs to be fast, and I need to have that connection with the material sooner than most people, I guess.
Yeah. So Neko asks, do you feel more creative when you get guidelines or when you are creating from scratch?
Guidelines are very difficult. Creating from scratch is always the best, because you have no holds barred. Everything is just do whatever comes to your mind. but it's not realistic in a sense of like if I'm writing something that I know is going to be 6 days, and they've only given me 75 FX shots that I know I can't make a giant thing set in a space station with multiple explosions and laser goats and all this crazy shit. I can't do that. I have to be realistic because I have to shoot this in 6 days and I don't have a lot of money and I can't have more than 12 actors. So in terms of like when I'm just writing, like when I write my books, it's that's I don't no guidelines. Sometimes I don't even outline those. I just let them go and let them be whatever they have to be. Um, uh, but for a script, 100%, it is important because it keeps you grounded and realistic. Like I said, at the end of the day, if you're the director, you're going to have to figure this out. And if you're not the director, then you've been given a script that's impossible to film, and it's just going to be a headache, and it just means more work for everybody.
Yeah. I've always been curious. This is like a two-part question here. So for I was telling Joel from Media Glitch when we interviewed him that I had attempted to write my own script way back in like 1990, called The Other Side, and I was basically doing it from both a vampire point of view and a werewolf point of view.
Mm.
Eventually, it kind of fell through. I lost all the papers and everything, but uh, I told him that like when Underworld came out, that was kind of similar to the concept that I had. So I was like, I missed the opportunity. Shit. But I was curious, like when you write, so are you writing like what the characters are saying to each other, like a storyboard, or does that come later? Is that kind of like a fine tuning that you do, or does somebody edit it for you in that way? Like, how does that work?
Well, in terms of I think the first thing you should learn when you're going to tackle a script is format because it is all format. It's very structured as to what exactly has to be on there, and it has to be professional, or else everyone in the industry will be like, "What the hell? What is this?" So,
Right.
so you kind of write it all, all at the same time. You have your action line, and then you have your dialogue in the little in the center, and but yeah, you kind of just write it all, all on the page, and you do it in a sense where I mean, it is kind of like prose writing without all that, but the text is formatted differently. Like
Hmm.
you have, John opens the door, and then you have their name in the center, and there's the dialogue instead of in quotation marks. So it's basically just I see it as I'm writing a book, but I'm just changing up the format a bit, and I find that easier than seeing it as a play because I find plays hard to read, which is weird. I
Yeah.
mean, I've read Shakespeare and things like that, but the way those are written, it's all on can't even think of the word right now, but it's all on one side of the page. So it's basically prose, but it's broken up by the dialogue and stuff. So a script is easier to read because it's more centered. You've got the action at the top, then the centered dialogue. It feels cleaner to me than a play. A play feels very thick, almost
Yeah.
like just a regular book, or prose, I should say. So I love the scripting process because I feel it's cleaner and you can blow through it. But yeah, usually you tackle all of it at the same time, dialogue
Mm.
and action, and just it's like you're watching the movie and you're just
Yeah.
dictating what happens.
Now the other part of that is, and I've always been curious about this. I don't think I've ever really asked any director this. How much of your script, and then also maybe while you're shooting a movie, how much of that do you find on the average is actually put into the film? Because I know there's a lot of editing that takes place and stuff
Mm.
like that. So you always kind of hear about how, oh, we're gonna have the director's cut, but for yourself, like how much in your experience, like how much of that happens to you? Like how much of your story actually gets into the films?
Well, luckily, because I'm because on these movies, on the last two anyway, we've moved so fast. 100% of the script is in the movie. 100%. Because you need to film it and you need to put that in there, and you don't want to come in at a short runtime, and that happens a lot on a 6 day movie where they just end up being short, even if they shot 100-page script. Luckily, I the only time I had issues with a cut being changed was because a producer stabbed me in the back, and it
Oh
was an
wow.
unfortunate situation, and it kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
It was sort of taken out of my hands. But in terms of the scripted, the last few movies I've been 100% is what I mean. There's rewrites that happens. You get notes, and the producers, say, "Oh, don't say this or change this," or well, I don't understand what happens here. Clarify that, and it's
Hmm.
it's producer notes. They have everybody gets them. So there is
Yeah.
rewriting that happens, but at the end of the day, it's still your story, your material. It's just you have to sort of get it through the sift of the producers and the development team.
So going back through your list a little bit, what is it like working with Dee Wallace and Lynn Lowry?
Oh man, I love them very much. Lynn, I've worked with more than Dee. Dee was in Hansel and Gretel, which I wrote. I was supposed to direct that, but they gave it to a fellow named Anthony Ferrante, who his next movie would be Sharknado. So,
Ha ha! Never
and I
heard that
remember telling
before.
him, yeah, I remember telling him, "Don't take it, dude. It's gonna kill your career." I'm like, no, man.
Wow.
He's like, should I do the Sharknado thing? I'm like, no, man. Are you kidding me, bro? Come on. And I mean, honestly, with that first one, before it blew up, they were worried.
Oh
On
yeah,
the
yeah. Like her and I talk about it all the time. The night that it went on air, like they were promoting the shit out of it. Like it's just so weird. Like that particular movie, they just were pushing it, and it's like finally we're just like, well, let's check it out because it's got to be something to it. And sure enough, man, that shit took off. So it went to another guy. Well, now, were you supposed to do it, or did you have interest in doing it?
I wanted to do it. It was the film before Hansel was The Hunting of Whaley House, which I wrote and directed, and the producers loved it. They we came in on time and under budget, and the movie looked great. But and then Hansel and Gretel was the next up, and I was writing it, and I was expecting to direct it, and then they sort of pulled the plug on that, and I never really got a clear answer why. But whatever, it happened. But I got to meet and work with Anthony, and he's a dear friend to this day, and so I was on set. Maybe 2 days with Dee, and I didn't. She was in character, so it's one of those you don't want to go. She's playing this wicked witch. You don't want to
Right.
go. Hey, I'm a big fan in E.T. Was he freaky in real life? Because he certainly was freaky in the movie. So
I would have been
you
doing
don't
that
want
for
to
the. I would have
project.
been doing that for the Howling for sure. I'd be like, I love the Howling. You're my
Oh,
goddess. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my god. Yeah. And I was gonna ask you, like, was there ever like a full transformation for you? Like, did you ever did they shoot that? But I didn't get a chance to. But no, she was incredible, professional, lovely lady. Amazing to work with her. And Lynn was somebody that I met. Gosh, was she at a? I I don't remember if it was at a convention or if we just connected over Facebook or something. But I'm obviously a big fan. I think she's incredible. Uh, I drink your blood, sugar cookies. I mean, she's just excellent.
The
And
Crazies. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Crazies, yeah. She's in two of my films, and I love her very much. I think she's just fantastic, and highly recommend working with her if anybody wants to hire her for anything.
Did you?
She's
I
wonderful.
recently saw both her and Felisa in Wolf Hollow. Did you get a chance to check that out yet?
No, that's is that a new one?
Yeah, you'll enjoy that. It's a lot of fun. Lynn's like nuts in it. It's so great.
Oh, great! I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it. And speaking of that, like, so when you're putting together a film, now I know just from a fantasy standpoint, because I'm not a director or anything, that if I was thinking of a movie I wanted to do, I'm always thinking of actors I would like to do roles. Do you kind of go through that same process, or you just say, let's open the auditions up and whoever shows up, shows up?
Yeah, it really depends. When you're talking about a name actor, which is usually producers like to go after, like a famous face, like Doug Bradley in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you don't really hold open auditions for people like that. You usually go
Right.
to them. You go to their agent and you're like, hey, we're interested in, for example, we're interested in Doug for this part. Would he be interested in reading the script? Here's the dates that we're shooting. This is, what we're offering. You offer the whatever the money amount is and stuff like that. And then the agent goes to the actor and says, hey, they want you for this. Would you like to read the script? This is the offer. And then that's how that process goes. For regular, kind of, I don't want to say non-famous,
Secondary roles. Yeah.
yeah, like the people that aren't necessarily like the name roles, but are maybe big actors or like characters in the movie. Then you would hold open auditions, and then you have a casting agent who collects all these. Usually, it used to be done in person. Now it's done through videotape. So people send in something called self tape, and the casting director kind of combs through it, finds the best ones, and so you don't have to watch 1,000 auditions for like one character, and you watch maybe the top 30, and then usually you'll find the person you like in there. If you don't, then they'll give you the rest of them, like, well, here's the next 30, here's the so you can
Yeah.
give everybody a chance. But in terms of the big names, you usually go through their agent, and yeah, you have dream casting. Like I'm working on something now that I can kind of hint at, but I can't say too much about. And I already have casting in my head. Whether it's going to happen or not is different.
Right.
That's it
Well, I
happens.
know we talked
It's
about
hard.
too how like you've built this like kind of working relationship and friendship with some of these people over the years. So I know that like we'll get to The Exorcist soon, where Denise Duff, she's been in a few of your films. So like you have this good working relationship with her. I love her in the Subspecies series. So like she's like one of my favorite actresses in that regard. So yeah, I can see how you'll build up some of these, and you're like, okay, hey, I got this role, and then you approach them and say, hey, are you interested in this script that I'm doing? I'm sure they're like, yeah, sure, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, it's nice when you can you can kind of go to people and say, hey, I'd love to work with you again. I've got this thing happening. Would you be interested? And you know, time and budget willing, we make it happen.
yeah. So speaking of your your films you're doing, they're basically low budget on the lower end of the spectrum, just how it is.
Hmm.
And but do you find that you kind of enjoy that more? Like if you, I hate asking this because it's kind of like a no brainer, but if you were approached to say like, "Hey, Jose, we want you to direct a monster or a Godzilla film in the MonsterVerse, or maybe the next John Wick film," is that something you would jump at, or you kind of just say, I'm kind of comfortable where I am. I mean, I do like the money and all, but I just feel more comfortable in my realm of my little circle here. What? How do you approach that?
It's nice to be a big fish in a small pond, because then you if you can, you're able to make more of a name for yourself. Would I take a bigger movie? Absolutely. But I've heard so many horror stories from friends who've jumped a bigger budget, and it's like, my God, it's even worse. Yeah, the money's better, but it's just like just a
Yeah,
headache. Like, everybody's giving you notes. The assistants are giving you notes. You're like, who the fuck is this guy? Should I listen? Why is this guy telling me this? And it's like, it just feels like, honestly just feels like more of a headache. And like, more and more stuff's coming out from like big, the big Hollywood industry that just feels like awful.
yeah,
I don't know if I want to go through that. But in terms of a Godzilla movie, I feel like it doesn't even matter what kind of director you are. It's all about the effects. So
right,
like most of the movie would be out of your hands. Like if you did a Marvel movie, apparently Marvel directors don't even direct the action scenes. They have special effects directors who come in and direct the action scenes because they're so specialized that the
yeah,
directors are just kind of there to point the camera for the talking stuff. I'm like, what the shit? Like, I feel like that doesn't even feel, it feels so impersonal. That's
right,
so that's why Edgar Wright left. He's like, no, that's not the kind of filmmaker I am. And so I don't think that I would like something like a big Godzilla type movie, but I would absolutely fucking love to do a John Wick action movie. It's a dream come true. I love kung fu films and sort of hyper realized violence Well, it's not like, I don't like torture porn, but I do like, Timo's movies. I'm blanking on the one from Netflix. The Night Comes for Us, I believe it was called.
Oh yeah, yeah. Joe
Oh,
Taslim and all
dude,
them. Oh, dude,
dude,
so good.
so good. Yeah, I mean, so
Yes.
I would love to do something like that. That would be absolutely unreal. Yeah, but in terms of like being handed a Marvel movie, I mean, I just feel like that would be the ultimate headache. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, because I
so
often think I probably would say the same thing you were. It's like, yeah, man, I could really use that paycheck, but man, the headache that would come along with that, like, and I think some of it too, like you said, when it comes to these bigger projects, like it's more kind of going out of the director's hand because you're not really in power there. So I would think with the stuff that you're doing, you have more control of what you content you want and how you want the film to go. The only issues you run into, of course, is the distribution and all that stuff. But at the same time, you still have that more control. Whereas with the bigger ones, it's like it kind of goes out of your hands. You're like, damn,
yeah, and you can't
because
even control
the studio
releases
might
or
come to you and say, well, we want you to do this because we think this will be a selling point. And you're like, well, that's not the vision I have. I don't want it to deal with that.
yeah, no, it's a mess, and it's just one of those things that uh, everybody burns out on it. I don't think there's and then even if you make a movie you're happy with, then the audience, is much more vocal about tearing it down or praising it. But it just feels like such a kind of a toxic space. So I'm not in a hurry.
You're right. Yeah, I think you're doing okay.
Right.
So we talked behind the scenes a little bit. You're a family man. You've got kids and a wife and everything. And so obviously I've seen photos and stills of you at premieres for like The Exorcist and probably some of your past films. How does your family handle like your stardom basically right now? Do they kind of go all in with it? Are they really hip to it, or are they kind of like stay in the background? How do they feel about what you do as a career and stuff?
I don't know about stardom, but I appreciate that.
Well, you're a star to me, so I mean, there's that.
Hey, there you go. I appreciate that. No, I mean they love getting dressed up for the premieres, and they love standing on the red carpet and taking pictures. My daughter went most recently to the Exorcist one with her best friend, and they were just taking all these pictures for TikTok and stuff. So they love the celebration, and we're big movie people here. Obviously,
Yeah,
they've grown up watching movies since they were little and just appreciating the artwork that is movies. And um it's just a kind of a part of our life. It's not necessarily something that's like daddy's dirty little secret. Like they know very well what's happening. Luckily it's not like I'm working with Wicked Pictures or Vixen or whatever.
Daddy's locked away in his room. He's doing dirty things back there.
Yeah.
So as I was prepping for the interview, I of course was checking other interviews that people had done with you, and like there's some movies, like I said, I haven't seen in your list of stuff that you've done, but one of the things that came up was your movie Blood Brothers, and apparently the film itself is a little bit different than some of the other stuff you've done. Can you
Mhm.
kind of give me a rundown, like what the process or the plot of the film is, like what makes it a bit different from some of the other stuff that you've done, filmmaking wise?
Well, Blood Brothers was I forget the number. I want to say my fourth movie, and I wanted to make a David Lynchian serial killer movie,
Hmm.
and I based it off of a semi based it off of a true story of these two men that were they killed a little boy at the time. And gosh, I'm blanking on their names now, but it was an old case from like the 40s or something, and they made a really incredible movie, Compulsion, starring Orson Welles. And I remember watching that movie. I'm like, oh man, I would really like to tackle the story, but I would make them brothers. And it would be sort of exploring before the murder and sort of what happens afterwards, but then we take it in a very artistic David Lynch kind of Kubrick kind of way, and use Dario Argento type colors and just make it just really, it's just visually really incredible. And one of my friends was an actor and a producer, and he's like, "Okay, let's make it. I've got some money. I'll fund it. You write it and direct it." I'm like, "Really? Okay, shit, awesome, let's go." So it just kind of happened one night, and I wrote the script very fast. It's the story of two brothers who want to commit the perfect murder, and then they don't kill a child. I changed that, but it's the events before and after a murder and what happens to them and their relationship. And I got to work with Ken Foree and Barbara Crampton on that, and Lynn was in that
Both
as
great.
well.
Yep.
So it was an incredible uh, production. I loved making all my movies, but I loved making that film because it was very different visually, and tonally, and we could go artsy fartsy with it, but still tell a narrative story. Like I don't mind if your movie's artsy fartsy as long as you're actually telling me a story and not wasting my time. And that's
Correct. Yep.
that was the goal. We're telling a
Yeah.
story, but we're doing it in a way that transcends the material in a way. Like you're gonna
Mhm.
a little more poetically than you would normally tell a movie. But it's still a movie, and you can still watch it as a serial killer thriller. Um, the post production on that was tough, but and that was a movie that was independent and needed to go to festivals and needed to find distribution, and it was a lot. That was a long process, to get that movie, out and seen, and now it's available on Tubi, I think, so people can go check that out.
No, I definitely check that one out. I haven't, just kind of like I said, I'm just still kind of learning about some of the stuff you have out there. But
It's all good.
uh, so in honesty, how hard was it to direct Preston Downey?
He
How
was
many
so
takes did
difficult.
how many takes did it take for Samurai to get that shit right? Hey boss, hey boss.
Man, no, he was awesome, man. It was funny because I could tell he was kind of a little nervous, but or maybe he wasn't, but I just got, maybe it was just like his nervous energy or something. But that he nailed it. Again, it was a 6-day movie, so we were rushing, so he got like one take, maybe two. And but he did fucking great. He was awesome. He was awesome.
For a guy that's like so nice, he's so imposing. I'm sure he's huge. Like
Yes.
it's just insane. All right, well, let's
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about The Exorcist. So this is your newest project that's out there. You say it's on video on demand right now.
Yeah, currently it's on Redbox and Vudu, and it will be on I don't have Roku, but I assume there's some kind of VOD element to Roku. Somebody said it was going to be on there, and then it will be on Amazon Prime eventually. Actually, tonight when we're recording this, anyway, October 5th is the last night that it's in theaters. So it
Oh
had a
wow,
small
cool.
theatrical run, and I think it'll be on Amazon. Hopefully in the next few days, because I know that's like the big one. And yeah, so it'll be available, and then eventually it'll be on Tubi, maybe sometime early 2024.
So you put together this film. Now we know that Exorcist Believer, the sequel to the original Exorcist, is coming out soon. Was this done purposely on your part to kind of like just coincide with the release of that one, or did it just happen naturally?
Well, I've always wanted to make an Exorcist movie. I'm a big fan of the franchise. Obviously, I love The Exorcist. I think it's just a phenomenal movie, and it stood the test of time for a reason. It's just incredible. I mean, I've seen that movie so many times. It's just incredibly well made to the point that it feels fresh every time, and still
Yeah.
terrifying to this day. The Asylum has a thing that people have called mockbusters, and we call it tie-in movies, where and they've done this in the past. Where there's a big movie coming out, and they'll do a competing movie, like Spielberg had War of the Worlds, and then the Asylum did a War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
the first thing I worked on with Asylum when I moved to LA was The Day the Earth Stopped, which was, of course, tying into the Keanu Reeves Stood Still remake.
Hmm.
Um, so they do these tie-in movies which I'm not going to speak to the fact of like, are they trying to trick people or whatever, but it's a thing that they do. And
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
that Exorcist Believer was coming out, I pitched, hey guys, can I make an Exorcist movie? And it's kind of like I get to live out the dream of making the movie, but then you get your tie-in, and it's we make each other happy. And so
Right.
now my goal, make it make as genuinely good a film as possible, without having, within the constraints of what they give me, and hopefully somebody watches it and discovers it beyond thinking that it's like, an asylum cash in or whatever. But yeah, it on their part, yes, it's to tie into Exorcist Believer, but on my part, it's living out a dream to make this type of movie, which is a genre, a sub genre that I really enjoy.
Now, is the plot design supposed to tie into the original, or is it just its own thing?
It's his own thing, but it's without giving too much away.
Right.
Like vampire movies, like werewolf movies, there is a lore and there is rules that you have to follow for an Exorcist movie. So it
Right.
follows the rules, of exorcism movies, because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can really do in that space.
Right.
And Yeah, so but it's not necessarily tied in or a sequel or anything like that.
So we talked a little bit about it because you got Doug Bradley in this, Denise Duff, and of course Bradley going from Hellraiser to a priest. That's got to be pretty drastic and change. I saw a little bit of your. I think you were doing like a premiere or something where you were talking with Doug and Denise and all them at the cast, and I thought that was really great. I stepped in and I said hello and everything. Uh, what is Doug like? He seems like the nicest dude on the planet.
He is amazing. Whenever you work with like a big name actor, or at least somebody who has a track record, and you've seen their work quite a bit, you never know, because you hear horror stories of like, oh, we had this person on set and they were just a pain in the ass and it ruined the experience and soured everybody. So you never know. And Doug is coming into this movie. He's working 4 out of the 6 days. He thought that we had more shooting days, that it was just his 4, but we were going to keep going. He didn't realize we were wrapping after 6. So, when he gets here and he goes, oh my God, you're only shooting for 6 days? That's impossible. There's no way you're going to make that happen. And, and it was just I'm a very open person. I'm very honest. I don't like to, I won't bullshit you. And I said, look, it's not going to be easy, but we're going to try our hardest to make a good fucking movie. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, whatever is left is what the movie is. And if we don't try our hardest, then we failed. And I said that to the actors. You have to care as much as I do, because you are the movie. No one's going to know about me. Somebody renting this movie is not going to know what I have to go through for 6 days or whatever. They're going to see your face saying my lines, but it'll be you. These will be your words. At the end of the day, that's why those actors are famous, because they are the movie. No one really knows
Yeah.
who wrote it or whatever. So you have to care. You have to care 100%, 100% at all times, or this isn't going to work. And everybody wanted to make a good fucking movie. And that's all you need at the end of the day, no matter what. And Doug wanted to make a good fucking movie, and he brought his A game. He never complained. We were shooting 4 in the morning. He's 70 years old, and he's falling on the ground and doing his own stunts. Dude, he was like a little Liam Neeson. He was awesome.
Nice.
So he's phenomenal, and I hope to work with him again soon.
Yeah. So Neko and I initially had tried or planned on doing a reaction to the trailer for The Exorcist, but of course time didn't permit us to do it today. So I'm wondering if it's okay if I play the trailer now and just kind of give you live feedback when we're done, is what I thought of it. If you're okay with that.
But yeah, let's do it.
All right. So here we go with 2023 The Exorcist with the S. I have to make sure I put that in there.
Right.
What are we dealing with here?
Her name is Huxley Hendricks. She's dying. I think we can save her.
3 priests to represent the Trinity. round-the-clock exorcisms.
When do we start?
How soon can you pack?
What exactly are we going to be doing today?
Be careful. She bites. She asked for you
Hi, Huxley. By name. Here to help you.
Tonight is the night. Open your eyes.
It wants us here,
Oh, I'm out.
all at the same time.
Sophie, wait.
This isn't an exorcism.
Where'd she go?
It's a trap.
Hello?
It's getting antsy.
Well, let's not keep it waiting.
Reveal your name.
You'll not have it! Cast him into the bottomless pit!
You don't scare me.
What do you want with me? This is war, Olivia. Between my boss and yours.
You will die. That's why you're here.
There is no escape.
There's no hope.
Free this girl!
He's gone, gone, gone.
I'm mad at you.
Corey.
Yeah,
There you go.
very cool. Yeah, I had done a reaction to Believer a few weeks back, and like I have some really big doubts about it. Like, I'm a big Exorcist fan as well as Neko, and uh, I'll tell you, man, your film looks like it's way better. I just like even the effects and everything. Like, it's really well done, man. Like, you really outdid yourself here with this. Uh
Thank
the
you.
acting is top notch. In fact, it's kind of weird. Who's the actress with the short hair? Because she looks like a young Judi Dench to me. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that look or not, but she reminds me of young Judi Dench.
She's horror royalty, man. She's Kate Hodge. She is
Oh, that's
Final
Kate!
Girl.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome, dude. Shit, I didn't
Yep.
recognize her. That's awesome.
yeah. She adopted a new look like literally before filming. The makeup guy, makeup and hair, Greg Leitner, who's amazing. He did all our makeup and special effects. He texts me, "Hey, Kate shaved her hair." I'm like, "What?" Because she had like nice long dark hair. She
Yeah.
shaved it. I'm like, "Oh, all right, fine. If that's what she wants, we'll go with that." And I think it looks great, and it really fits the part actually. So she's
Yeah,
awesome.
like I mean, of course, Rapid Fire and TCM3. Like, I just grew
Mm,
up really loving her work. So that, yeah, I didn't recognize it. That's awesome. Just
yeah.
such a strong cast, man. Like, and it looks well made, man. Like, obviously you put a lot of hard work into this, so you got to be really proud about what the final result is. How has the reaction been so far? You said it's been on the theaters a little bit. Have you heard any feedback about it?
Yeah, the little feedback I've heard has been very positive. People, it's one of those things where it's like if you put Asylum at the beginning of your movie, most people will be like, "Oh," and then they're kind of like, "All right," it almost like the stars start dropping, and we're trying to change that. We're trying to when people see this, sound like, "Oh, okay, this could be a nice surprise." So most people, I think, most of the reviews are like, "Oh wow, this is pretty good for an Asylum movie." So I'll take it.
Yeah,
So
it's funny you said that because for me, I get kind of the reverse action. If I see a sign, I get happy. But if I
oh
I
great,
just did a reaction a couple of days ago to the new Shipka horror film, and it's Blumhouse. So immediately someone picked up on my groaning when I saw Blumhouse in the
oh
title.
man, it's
Yeah.
funny. I've heard not I haven't seen Exorcist Believer yet, but early word on that is real bad. I think
Yeah,
Rotten Tomatoes it was like under 30%. That's
yeah,
rough.
yeah. You do not want that for your film.
No,
But
no.
I understand it. Like, man, like I had doubts about the whole twin possession and stuff, and like again, we're dealing with like you remember. Obviously, you're well versed in horror, like I am. the original horror film of The Exorcist is dark. It's not so dark you can't see, but it uses its lighting effectively.
Mm-hmm.
With the new film, at least by the trailer, there's a lot of light. She's walking into a church in daylight. I'm like, it's not scary. I'm not fearful. The dark is what makes us fearful. So it doesn't seem like it's really being effective in terms of scare. So I'm not sure what they're going for. Your film, guess what? Has dark.
Yeah.
So it plays to that fear. So I enjoy that aspect of your film, at least going by the trailer. So I will be Neko and I will be checking it out and doing a review of our own on it. I'm really
Thank you.
excited about this. Yeah. So I really only have one last thing to kind of touch on here, and maybe you can give me an update a little bit. I know you talked about in the past doing something called the Furnace Leech Woman based off Puppet Master. Is that still going? What is the story behind that?
Well, that's the Full Moon project that I was gonna direct, and that's the one that has unfortunately, for the moment
Oh,
anyway, burned up in the furnace. It may be long dead. I don't know if it's gonna be resurrected down the line, but I mean that honestly that was a huge disappointment. If I didn't have
yeah.
Exorcist to keep me busy, I would have been really really fucking bummed because I love, like I said, Full Moon was a big part of my childhood and my filmmaking career with Transfers 2 and all that
Right.
stuff. So yeah, I would have. I mean, and I'm not a giant, to be honest. I'm not a giant Puppet Master fan, but the first three are phenomenal movies, and I
Yeah.
wanted to go back to that kind of style of Puppet Master. And honestly, I don't know that I would have been able to, uh, but I would have attempted to go back to the old style, and unfortunately, I can only report that it's dead for now.
Yeah, that's too bad. Like, and I like the fact that you kind of went with the one that not too many people would think too much of, Leech Woman. Whereas, like, I always like the guy with the knife. A
Yeah,
little like
yeah, no,
he was always like a fan favorite.
but yeah, Blade's awesome. Leech Woman honestly is not my favorite, but she was chosen by Charlie Band. They wanted to make a Leech Woman movie, so
Oh,
so
okay.
my goal was if Leech Woman's like for the most part I would say probably nobody's like top three. Let's make her everybody's top one. This is the movie where Leech Woman's gonna fucking be the one. She's gonna blow everybody away and be like, oh shit, Leech Woman is the real fucking puppet master puppet. That was my goal anyway, and I think approaching it in that way would have made a really exciting movie. But yeah, it
Definitely.
happens.
Well, maybe we'll get some more traction and come back because I'd really like to see what you can do with that. Because I mean, they still put out Puppet Master films, and I think a spin-off of sorts would be kind of cool. So we'll
Yeah.
see if it gets back on its feet there. All right. Well, tell people how they can find you, where to find your links and stuff to your show. Because I know you do, like I said, you do a lot of stuff on YouTube with different Blu-ray releases from Video Vinegar Syndrome and stuff like that. So just give people some information how they can find you.
Yeah, on YouTube, Master Chaos is my channel, and I do a lot of I not as much as I used to. I'm sort of backing off of YouTube because they've kind of changed their rules, so it's not as fun to be on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I'll do live shows covering Blu-ray news and physical media in general, and movie reviews and things like that. And I do live panel shows where I bring on guests. And by the way, DJ Anubis, I'm gonna reach out to you when we do our next panel show and see if you want to join us for
Oh,
some
absolutely.
crazy movie reviews. So yeah, it's Master Chaos. I had two channels, but one is listed as official, and the other one is Master Chaos TV, which is my older one, which is unmonetized, so I'm not there anymore. And then on social media,
So go to the monetized one.
yeah, go to the monetized one. It's the one that has the most recent content, and I'm on Twitter as I believe it's just Master Chaos. I don't even remember what it
Yeah, I'm
is
about to
on.
check. I
Yeah,
can't remember if I'm following you there or not. I should be, but
let's see. It's just Master Chaos TV. One word altogether.
I'll definitely put in
Um,
their links in the comment section,
Great.
so I'll let people know where to find you and stuff. So
I appreciate it. Yeah. Man, and that's where I'm at. Normally, I'm on Facebook, but I'm only really there for, you know, checking up on the Blu-ray companies and keeping in touch with a couple people. But I'm not. I'm trying to not be a Facebook person anymore. 'Cause, I'm just kind of. I was done with Facebook, but I only came back for work. So I'm only
Yeah,
a
that's
secret.
basically all I do is like just I mean I do post a little bit on Facebook, but usually it's just for whatever I'm releasing, talking about movies or whatever. I just everything else I could care less, So it's
Yeah.
just how it is. But thank you, man, for taking the time out, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I had a blast doing this with you. We'll have to do this again at some point. Another 20 years, we'll get more films under your belt.
Yeah, I could just give me 5 years. I'll have a whole bunch to talk about. You never know. But thanks,
Right.
man. This has been a pleasure, man. And I'm glad we finally got to make it happen. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Well, for the rest of you, please hit the like button and subscribe if you like the content. Master Chaos, please hold on for a quick second. Yeah, I always get confused with the camera angles on this.
Yeah,
It's
like that.
ridiculous.
There you go.
He covers both grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if down the road, if you're having a show on, you want some extra guests, I'll be glad to join you and talk some
Great.
horror and stuff. So I love doing that. Yeah, hold on real quick, brother. I'm gonna do my outro and then we're gonna let you go. So hold on.
Okay.
Rest of you, enjoy the rest of your weekend and talk at you later.
You see me before you die.